working hard, doing things, being resourceful to, oh, wow, this is something I can't work harder. I can only do a certain amount of
Yeah.
things and just believe.
Hi everyone, Elle Ballard is here today, and I am excited to welcome my new guest on our show. I am just excited for this conversation. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Great to have you. Thank you for taking the time. So before we jump on, I always love to introduce my guests, and I'd love to introduce Tanya. Starting out at age 25, Tanya Alvarez self-funded her first New York ad agency using credit cards and achieved 0 to 1 million in revenue in the first year. Wow, impressive. Along the way, she traveled to 42 countries, completing the Boston and NYC marathons and half Ironman, all while battling a rare brittle bone condition. Wow. Tanya Alvarez, a classic underdog story. She is on a mission to help you own your life, not just your business. Through Owners Up, Tanya aims to empower you to win at work without losing at home, utilizing facilitated accountability sprints to scale your business sanely and enable you to live your ideal life now. Welcome, Tanya. First of all, your story is so powerful. Thank you for being here and thank you for able to share it. Why do you do what you do? Why did you choose this field for your business?
So immediately what I realized when I was running my first business is here I was 25, a young Latina, and there's all these entrepreneur groups. But like it's when you hit a million, you can get into it. So I was hitting a million, and when I would go into it, it was just all white men, right? And here I was not only a female, a minority because I was a Latina, and they were doing like more of like brick and mortar, different types. And I didn't have like I needed so many like questions to be answered. And my family, my friends were super supportive. But unfortunately, sometimes they don't have answers because they're not entrepreneurs, right? So another thing I noticed is that I knew what I was doing sometimes, but I needed to have focus. I needed to have a feedback loop, and I needed to have accountability because even though we come from a structure, so all of a sudden we go from a corporate world or school, and it was this structure, right? There was a deadline, there was this ranking somehow, and you just kind of went through it. Then all of a sudden you have all this freedom as you're an entrepreneur, and you're just like, whoa, you either become overwhelmed or you're not in action because you're a perfectionist, which we all are in some way, or we overanalyze things, right? And then we're kind of like, what's going on? And we're spinning our wheels. And I was like, why isn't there a program where you're instantly like having this thing where it's like there's a deadline, everyone's going after each other's like different goals, but we're all in this journey together and we can all leverage what we're all learning. So imagine if you're a group of 5 people going after the same goal, right? In the sense of building a profitable business and having a life. And then you can learn, hey, don't hire this VA. If you hire this VA, do this. And then you're also held accountable to those goals. So you get out of the spinning the wheels based on whatever it is, perfectionist, overanalyzing, all of that. And that's what I created. And that came back from, my running days. And what I mean by that is like, even if I was going to do another like Boston Marathon, I always join a team. I know exactly what to do. I know how to get myself in shape and anything, but I am not foolish enough to not train with others. Because no matter how much why, like in the sense of like, I want to finish this, I want to do this time, my willpower isn't going to be like 100% every single day. So when I train with others, I'm actually showing up not only for myself, for that other person, and then going intense, right, during that time and learning from it, and then having a coach course correct me. And so that is what Owners Up is. And that's why I want more entrepreneurs to actually succeed. And like women, it's less than, I would say, I think the current stat is 12% who go over a million. Now, you put into like minorities in the sense of ethnicities, it's like a 3 or 4%.
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
come from cultures that are so supportive, right? But yet
Yes.
when we're in an entrepreneur world, we're in this path all alone. And it's a lot of like personal belief systems that's like, even if you're an overachiever, there's something there. There's a story there that we haven't really surfaced.
Beautiful. Love that so much. Definitely agree. Definitely love what you do. So needed. Yeah. And in addition to all this overwhelm that we have to do daily, all the new skills we have to, catch up on, or adding to our to-do lists, or whatever it is, there's so many things to, in addition to that, there is a cultural barrier that we grew up with, right? That's what I like to also talk about at Women of the World Network, because there's so many cultures and belief systems and childhood, some programming that is just so much. So I love that
Shows up, right? Every time, like if you're stuck, it's usually some sort of story that might
Yes.
not even be your own, that you got from your family or something you've observed and you made it mean something.
You're born to. It's just there's always something like that. So I love how you organize this group where you help others to with the accountability factor. I love that. So okay, so, and I know we're going to post a link, by the way, for Tanya at the end when we publish this, so make sure you check those out. Now that leads me, we touched on cultures and upbringing a little bit. That leads me to my next question is, how has your background limited or favored you?
So I was raised by a single mom. She immigrated from Colombia and she raised 4 kids on her own. And my oldest has the rare disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is brittle bones. And she's been in a wheelchair since she was very young. She's broken over 200 bones. I have that, but in a form that's like I'm able to, as you know, marathons, Ironman. So my bones are just more about, they're more that they can break. But luckily I work out and it's helping, but it's not as severe as my sister. So all that being said is I've grown up where like there's times when I was growing up that we didn't know if like some, you know what I mean, some of the things that like some food, we always had like milk and all that, but not the luxuries or not this other stuff. And so growing up, I realized that I just need to work harder. And then also I need to be more resourceful. And that was my gift in being an entrepreneur, because I didn't think, oh, I need to, oh, I wish I had this money. I wish I had that. No, I was like, okay, what do I have? Right? What are my strengths? What do I have? And how can I leverage this to go? I mean, let's get started. So, for example, even in my first business, I only had a credit card. I was already in like some debt from college, right? Dealing with the loans. And I was like, okay, what do? I am good at presenting. I know what I'm worth, right? And I just started making phone calls. So there wasn't, oh no, my website or this or that. It was just go time. And I think people get stuck with like the things that they don't have instead of leveraging and thinking, what am I really good at? And what can I leverage? And how can I be resourceful?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned a little bit of your family and condition, because you with that condition, you did Ironman as well. I mean, this whole question, that there's a question that comes, first question that comes to me is, what was the biggest factor, I think, that in your mind helped you overcome that and really go through the marathon and Ironman and you didn't keep it to yourself as an excuse. You actually went ahead and did all of these things. You didn't, having this credit card debt, you didn't let that stop you. What was the major factor that helped you think? Just maybe one of the few biggest things.
Yeah, one of the gifts is because my sister has a little bit more severe osteogenesis imperfecta, which is OI in the short term, is that she taught me a lesson that life isn't promised, right? So I don't actually know, like people her age, it depends on how well they take care of themselves. Some live until 30, 40 right now. And so I was always like, I need to live my fullest because tomorrow isn't promised. So I learned early on that. So anytime I had something, I was like, there's people have it worse than me and I can just come move forward. And I want everybody to know that I think that being a self-made person is a myth. And I'm actually over that story because that is so not true, right? But everybody loves that story. And it's more about like the family, the friends I had, the support. Like, even though my mother was an immigrant and she came here, she was the first person I said, should I start my business? And she goes, yeah, of course. And I said, well, what happens if I fail? And she goes, you'll be exactly where you are, working for somebody. I was like, okay, that's true.
Right.
And I go, well, what happens if I fail and nobody wants to hire me? And she goes, you wouldn't want to work for a company like that. And just like that, I was like, yeah, when you start thinking about what you're going to lose by taking action, you realize it's not that bad.
Yes. Yeah. Such a wise mother you have.
Yeah, pretty considering that, like,
Yeah.
coming from her resources, she should be more like based on society and this scarcity mindset, right?
Yes.
Instead,
Yeah.
she was like directing me to follow my dreams and not
Yeah. Yeah.
go the secure route, because entrepreneurship, as we all know, isn't secure.
Yes. 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 Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. I just love this conversation. I feel like I want to go like outside of the and I feel like I would ask so many questions, right? So, okay, so let me see. What was your biggest lesson, or something that you had to overcome? And I mean, you already, to me, overcome so much, while building your beautiful life, beautiful business. Now you're building this business to help other women in business as well. But what would you say was your biggest lesson while building a business and life as a multinational, multicultural woman?
That's a great question. Just trying to think which one is a story. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that's a recent one. So I have this go-getter kind of like overachiever attitude. And when I was going through IVF, which is a fertility to get pregnant, they were told me I had a 7% chance of having just one kid.
Wow.
And that was a really hard thing because it's not something you can work harder, right?
Right.
You can't do anything.
Can't do anything about it.
And so, like, I had to learn how to surrender. And surrender felt to me like at that time, like before, I would think surrender is negative, right? But what I realized is surrender is just going with the flow and not forcing it. And that was one of my biggest lessons. And also being very clear and support and not having an attachment. Just know I wanted to have a family, however that looked like.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, I'm really lucky. I have two miracles and I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old right now. But that was the biggest kind of like it was from like working hard, doing things, being resourceful to, oh, wow, this is something I can't work harder. I can only do a certain amount of
Yeah.
things and just believe. And then it happened. And I've been fortunate, it was a small percentage. It was a lots of like, I went through 6 rounds, pricey and everything. And I was fortunate to have that. But it was a situation. So that was one of the big ones I recently, I guess, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. Surrendering. Yeah, I've learned that too. That I remember I think I posted on Instagram about surrendering, situations in life like this where you feel like you want to control it, but you cannot really control it. And the only thing is to surrender. But I think when we reach that point, there is so much wisdom around that awareness. Even reaching that awareness for me, I realized that, it's. And then the other thing I realized, once I was in that state of surrendering, things actually worked out.
Yes,
Because
right.
I took that energy, that I guess that stress or that fight or flight around it or that push around it. And, I just let it and everything fell into place. So I love
It
that. Thank you.
flowed, right? But then if
Yes.
you think of like surrender in the beginning as like a negative, like you're resisting it, right?
Yes, you're resisting. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're women, we build business, we used to take, and I'm also an action taker as well. So it's all about, okay, let's just go do this, right? And then there are situations where it's out of your really control.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, beautiful, and congratulations on 2 kids. Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Miracles. Thank you for sharing that personal story. Okay, so I am, as you know, founder of Women of the World Network. I am so passionate, and the numbers that you quoted at the beginning, that's the very reason why I do what I do, right? and even though we grew up, like you said, in a very supportive um environments and families, and there are so many other factors that for some reason not a lot of women achieve. And then you go to minority women building businesses, it's even a
Yeah.
smaller number. How do we help more minority women? And I know there are probably so many answers. It's a big question, right?
Good question. Yeah.
It's a big question. And I know we all do our parts in helping for this to accomplish. You have accountability, and I'd love to check out your group and what you do in your business. And we do what we do here. I love celebrating women like yourself, and women of the world like yourself too.
I think immediately I'm about, even if it's not accountability, coming up with another person. So what I've noticed with women is that we show up for others sometimes more than we show up for ourselves.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
like we have an appointment or a client. Oh, we're not going to miss that. We're not going to move that. Say, I'm going to do it later. We show up. But then when we have to do work ourselves or things that are move the needle in our business, we're like, oh, I've already I'm tired or whatever it is. And then you move that goal to next week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now I wonder if every woman grabbed somebody or had connected, not grabbed somebody, connected with somebody who was also going through that goal, and they showed up and did it together, right? And then they were able to kind of fun challenges, but hold each other accountable. So sometimes if I'm resisting something, I ask myself, why am I resisting? And then from there, I make an appointment with either somebody that I know who's going through something, and then we do it at the same time. So not only am I showing up for myself, but I'm showing up for them and supporting them. That's another way we can go past that. Because I think a lot of the first steps is a lot of women have brilliant ideas, but they're not taking the actions, right? And if you can come from a place of how can I support somebody else and support myself, I think everyone will accelerate, and then we'll grow quickly together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And goes back to that self-made, that it's not really self-made.
Yeah.
It's a joint effort. And and I love that quote, when we raise every boats rise together, or something along those lines. I love that quote, because when we are rising, we bring everybody up with us. And so it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think it went also it goes back to, at the end of the day, there was a point when I realized that I can create my own life by design. And I didn't know that before. There was a point where I actually realized, I'm creating it with every single step I make. And then when I hit that realization, I've asked myself, what do I really want at the end of the day? Because because somebody said so, or because I heard somewhere, that's not mine. And so I think that was part of the reason that keeps the overwhelm and lack of focus, right? And that takes me to the next question on focus. What do you think keeps entrepreneurs, this lack of focus? And I know a lot of it, I notice a lot of it, post-pandemic, especially this apathy, also tiredness, and that has, I think, something to do with, of course, lack of focus. Why do you
So I
think?
think there's more and more knowledge out there. There's more distractions.
Yeah.
Basically all these social companies have a team of people trying to hack our focus, right? They're hijacking our focus. They're paid to do that. And then we're experiencing oh, maybe I should do this, FOMO, or maybe I should do this for my business.
Yes.
Or I should be there. And then you're just everywhere. Then before you even start, your focus has been hijacked, right? And it's not even your fault.
Yeah.
People are paid thousands to do this, millions, a whole team. And so also we have in our brain, that's our amygdala, right? So it saves us. It says danger, okay, here, but we're running on this kind of fear of missing out. So we're always kind of going in there oh no, we got to do this, we got to do that. So one thing to represent to you, it's a 3-minute habit, and do it at the end of the day. We call it a wrap. The first thing is, one is to review. The R stands for review. Review what you accomplished. Just sit there and be like, what did I really get done? And based on what you're saying, Life by Design, you get to actually see if these are the things that get done. Is this the kind, based on these actions, is this the life that I want?
Yeah.
Right? These activities I want. And doing that makes you be more reflective and proactive instead of reactive. Because then we have, remember, we're coming from social media. Now we're in reactive state, and now we can go from a proactive and be like, hey, I got this done. My focus was off. How can I be proactive? The next part is assess. Assess your day 1 through 5. Was this an awesome day? Was this like a 5? And then what you can do is you start looking at what makes your day a 5. Sometimes it could be like amazing conversations, right? Or maybe it's like being on a podcast or a podcast interview, but then you're like, okay, how can I create those days that are 5s? And now you have data. So it's not you just thinking about it. You actually have data that shows it. And then P is to prioritize the 3 things that you want to get done the next day. Taking that time so you don't go in the next morning, wherever social media platform you're on, then you go on and then you're like, oh, what am I going to do? And then your focus gets hijacked. You actually have 3 things you need to get done. So if you do this at the end of the day, it is game changer. 1, on your focus. 2nd, on how you're creating like the life that you want. Yeah. And one big thing, by the way, it's the biggest thing, constraints. Haven't you noticed, like right before vacation, that you're going to go away from week, you're super productive? And the reason is it's because like that you're like, oh no, I have to get all this done and I don't have time to mess around.
Yeah.
If I want to have that week off.
I want to go on that vacation. Yeah. Yes.
So it's one of those things where it's kind of like that allows you that focus. So if you can say, if you really want to just work 4 hours, now you start thinking, someone asks you, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? You'll be like, I only have 4 hours. Is this worth my time?
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that tip. Wrap, review, assess, prioritize. Love that. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, I like how it's reflecting on the day, but it's also looking forward, the end of it, planning for what's next. Love that. Thank you for sharing, Tanya. Okay, so my last question actually is, what does it mean for you to be a woman of the world? I'm passionate and we're all women of the world, no matter where we're born, where we come from. What does it mean for you to be a woman of the world?
I'm really excited just to learn more cultures and be involved in more cultures, and having to, it's kind of like the 4-minute mile, right? When the guy did a 4-minute mile, then everyone was able to do what they thought was impossible, 4-minute mile. So the more women that we see from different cultures, having this life, right? Not because you see there's women who are like having successful businesses, but they don't have a life. Yes. I want to see more role models for those cultures that have a profitable business and have a life, so that more and more people can actually have it once they see it.
I love that. Thank you. Beautiful. I love that. I'm all about work-life balance. I love that. And maybe balance is a big word, right? Maybe there is not a perfect balance, but I know exactly what you mean, and I'm 100% supportive of that. Beautiful. Okay, so I am going to jump on the last part of our conversation today, which has been so beautiful. I feel like I want to continue, but let me jump on the rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so my first question, your favorite book name is?
That's a great one. Outliers.
Good one. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Favorite international destination to visit?
Vietnam.
Never been. Summer or winter?
Yes, summer, but I'm embracing winter right now that I'm in Minnesota. They're actually doing activities.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, and my last question is, things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
I am in this fun path of understanding we're going into more of the interpersonal stuff. So beyond like, how you gone to the inner child, have you ever done the inner child work? But then also, where's this, if you do not release an emotion, where is it in your body?
Yes.
That is very new to me. And it's been fun to kind of go into a world that I probably, to be honest, would have resisted. But
Mhm.
now I'm starting to see it, and it's great. It's because there's the results world, and then there's stuff that's under that we don't even understand, that makes our actions, because it's so subconscious, the action. So if we kind of like see where our body is on that, we can move forward. I know I'm explaining it really hard, like difficult, but yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I'm currently into mind and body holistic connection, so I totally get it. Energetically, yeah, it's a newer field. And so it's a big newer field that I think it's so fascinating. I'm so happy I'm living this time to just, to be a woman, first of all, in today's time. But thank you for sharing those. Thank you for answering. Thank you for playing. Okay, and this was Tanya Alvarez. Tanya, thank you for taking the time again. This was such a great conversation, and we will post links for our listeners to reach out, to check what you're doing, some amazing work you're doing in the world. And until later, thank you very much.
Thank you.